quick access to loans from Page Financials. Page Financials, taking you.
It's Smooth 98.1 Love Music, Love Life. I'm Ayo Myro SA.
And I'm Valentine Ohu. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
It's freshly pressed 9 at 1 time, and we are here with our analysts. Good morning, Lakunle Yusuf. Good to have you on the show.
Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Valentine. Good morning, Divo.
Good morning.
Particularly excited this morning. I am once again the father of a teenager.
Hey, congratulations!
Today's my daughter's birthday.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
I'm sure she's listening in now.
Oh.
Iman, happy birthday to you.
Oh, Iman.
Iman Yusuf, happy birthday.
birthday.
Welcome to your teenage
So
years.
nice.
And don't give your father gray hair. Let it be nice and sweet.
He has great hair.
And
We
smooth,
celebrate
sorry.
that.
All right, so we also have Devo. Morning, Devo. Do you have a
Good
teenage
morning.
daughter?
Well, she'll get there. She'll get there. But Eku PIB, welcome to the new deregulated oil and
We
gas
already welcomed them
downstream.
yesterday, but thank you
Yes,
so
so
much for that.
a lot of partying to go around, new money to be made. Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. Thank you very much. Well, this is how it goes here on the show. You can send your message to our WhatsApp platform 0809 444 0981.
We're streaming live on YouTube, so please send a message on that platform as well as subscribe so you can watch every conversation, every part of the conversation today. Let's start with this story. Oh my goodness. Now, the Vanguard has this headline: commuters stranded in Lagos as Danfo drivers withdraw services over extortion by tax force officials. While that's happening, may I remind you that this same thing happened, similar situation happened last year, September 1st, 2020, when commuters were left stranded. Although in this situation was a similar experience last year. Commercial tricycle operators and motorcyclists took advantage of the position or rather the situation to carry commuters, to their destinations. It affected those around Marwa and Okoda axis, especially Yanokwaja, Ikotum area and the environs of Alimosho. The interesting part of this story, Devo, for me, is the reaction of the government. Now, I'll quote the Lagos State Environmental Sanitation and Special Offences Unit Chairman and the Chief Superintendent of Police. They said they are not aware that this is happening. What are your thoughts, please?
It was not me, as usual. Someone will deny. But very horrific situation, especially within the Ipaja Ikotun, that's the Alimosho local government area, yesterday, when the bus drivers, aka Downfall, withdrew their services. More or less, they called a strike action to protest the illicit, what they refer to illicit extortion of money from them from the Lagos State Environmental Sanitation and Special Offences Task Force, who were holding them so-called frivolous traffic violations, right? Now, so what happened was eventually when buses were not on the road, as you know, it's a major form of transport within that axis. Many people had to revert to the use of okadas and the tricycles, aka kekes, who hiked their prices just to take advantage of the brisk business, right? Now, apart from these frivolous taxation that they're saying that has been meted against them, they're asking the governor, Sanwo-Olu, to intervene into the matter, of which, as you mentioned, the chairman of the task force did state that he was not aware or he didn't know of any frivolous actions that were being taken out or meted out on the drivers. Well, they're meant to meet with stakeholders and their unions in Oshodi today to try and resolve it. Now, number one, the drivers did complain on some of them that were interviewed that, look, they're not here to feed government or the tax force workers. They work hard for their money. The economy is hard. It's difficult surviving, and they continue impounding their vehicles, asking them to pay one or two things. And if you are a downfall user like me, I'm not among the elites, but you will know that most times at practically every bus stop, there's one funny guy who jumps on the bus and says "Owoda." Yes. Do you understand? And if they don't pay or if the conductor doesn't pay, next thing, punch one, punch two, and some other people show out of the blues and start dragging the conductor down. We see this often, time and often, and this form of system we have known to be an informal, I don't want to call it racket because it has some legitimization from government, because this has existed from time immemorial.
Informal taxes.
Yes. Now, what we see is that the unions, okay, and NUWRT and its various unions in the local governments seem to already understand how this informal taxation takes place. Whether it is legitimate or not, at this point in time, we can't really say, and government hasn't spoken to that extent. So the question is the pursuit of economic gain between the government and its people, that's the unions, the bus drivers in this case, is it legal? Is it really lawful? Is it about politics? It seems to be more about politics than it is about economic transactions. And I believe that, first of all, where are the state assembly members? These are issues that state assembly members, I don't want to be hearing the governor's name in situations like this. I want to hear the state representatives speaking to this fact.
Yes.
When last did they table this and say, okay, the way the downfall drivers operate, we need to formalize this to make it more beneficial to all parties, both the commenters, the users, that's us, the bus drivers themselves, to ensure that we have a system that works. But I haven't seen this. And Lagos State, being the largest black city in the world with about 20 million residents and about 5 million visitors on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, we haven't really done much about this, which is why we have this year on year. And I think it's not just a year on year issue. On daily basis, the transport system in Lagos does not work. You go through transport with sweat, with tears, and sometimes if you're not lucky to be one chance, you should thank God each day you're able to jump on the downfall and come out.
In Fela's words, sorrow, tears, and blood, it seems like describes the experience of people who use downfall buses in Lagos State.
In Fashola's words, Eko gbọ́dọ̀ bàjẹ́ o.
Eko ni bàjẹ́.
No, Eko gbọ́dọ̀ bàjẹ́.
Okay,
You
gbọ́dọ̀
should
bàjẹ́.
you should not let it spoil.
You will not let it spoil. Also, from Abulegba says, good morning, crew. We shouldn't be surprised that the government is not aware. After all, none of them use the service since they have decided to be gods over us.
All right. Let's it's an unexpected twist of events. There's an interesting story that wasn't captured earlier, but we caught it just at the precipice of freshly pressed. Now, this story about the CBN's recent ban. It's a brand new ban on Wednesday morning. Premium Times has this report that court freezes Bamboo Rice Vest accounts on CBN's request, and they're not the only two companies involved. There are a lot of firms numbering about 6 online investment firms following a request by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So this court, the Federal High Court in Abuja, yesterday ordered this freezing of these bank accounts on the request of the CBN. They said they contravene extant laws, Foreign Exchange, Monitoring and Miscellaneous Provisions Act of the CBN and CBN's Forex Manual Act. They said it transferred more than $10,000 to various accounts overseas. What are your thoughts on this, Lakule?
Good morning. I saw this story late last night, and a few of my friends and I, we had a brief discussion about it. Now, a few things. The CBN, as legally set up, is responsible for the monetary policy of the country. So it is their responsibility to ensure that nobody does anything to affect the policies and rules that will affect the monetary policy of the country. They have that responsibility. 2, there's a Securities and Exchange Commission that regulates practitioners of the investment sector, which, according even to this story, that sometime in April, they had listed some organizations and platforms that were operating illegally in Nigeria. Okay, so if we put these things together, we need to also appreciate the perspective where the CBN is coming from. Don't forget, this freeze is based on an ex parte order of the court, which means that the court didn't need to listen to the other parties.
Of the party, yes.
They just want to hear. So within the reasonable understanding of the court of what the CBN has presented, that's why they have granted this. Having said all this, now the first question is, now while protecting the monetary policy of the government and of the country, the laws and actions of the CBN, should it be to punish the erring organization or the people who have money in these organizations?
I love that question.
That's the first question to be asked. Two, should it not have been that SEC should first declare those organizations illegal?
That's Security and Exchange Commission.
Yes, then they can then, that is where the legality of the actions can really start, because it's the security, is the SEC that regulates the sector where these people play. The CBN taking the role off their hands, seemingly now, is what the issue really is. Then the other thing that we then look for is, why 6 months? Okay, you want to punish them. 6 months, that's 180 days, that's 6 months. So what happens to the people's, the money of the investors in there, in those 6 months? Some people put their money there because they have something in plan ahead, they want to spend that money and they don't want to spend it, that's why they put it there. Two, what happens to our quest for foreign direct investments? What happens to the confidence that we want to put in people? Because most of these organizations you will hear will say that their startup funds were seed investment by what do you call them, VCs?
Yes, venture capitalists.
Venture capitalists. Those ones wants to make money. So those are the questions and many other questions. Okay, now the CBN says that illicit forex transactions, it is a grave offense. And I would then imagine that if as grave as that is, why wait 6 months before you set a hearing for February 2022? It should be it should be priority on the list on the court's list that somebody has committed an offense as grave as this. You don't set it far apart, far below that distance. You should make it as close as possible.
So the 6 months period, just to put it in perspective, is the duration of how long the account will be frozen as requested by CBN, granted by the court.
Yes.
180 days. Now there are consequences, clear consequences beyond just the punishment that is being meted on the companies and by extension the investors. Some people invest for as long as that tenure, 180 days. What happens to the money that's sitting in the accounts that is being invested on their behalf by these companies?
So typically, what the implication of a freeze means that no activity on that account. That means the money's there, sitting down there. You can't invest it. You can't do anything to it. That's where it comes to. That's what comes to the punishment of the owners of the investors now.
Yeah, but I just point out that Rise and Bamboo have released statements saying that it would not be affected. They will still be able to. I will get the exact statements. That
because by implication, these monies have been invested in on their behalf.
So they're saying that they're just as the assurance to their customers. So I just wanted to see how factual that statement is, or is it just a way to appeal or to appease their customers?
In the first instance, what would you have expected them to say?
Said about the latest news about us and our FX dealings, you can be sure that your investments and funds are safely managed, that funding and withdrawals will continue to be processed as normal, and that our US operations remain intact.
You know what that means, in my opinion, is that those organizations will be bearing their losses. The customers will continue because they need to keep the confidence of the investors and the promoters of the business.
I think loss in this sense might just be that there won't be any new investments, coming in. But sometimes if you try to understand the mode of operation, they invest on the behalf of the investors, right? Primary investors in foreign companies. The foreign companies will still be rolling over these funds, right? But it probably just limit the activity for a while. But it would be good for us to put in perspective the CBN's lawyer's statement. The former Attorney General of the Federation, Michael Ondaka, he says the reason why this happened is because forex deals by the defendants, who are these 6 companies, were undercutting the strength of the naira against the United States dollar. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Ike on downfall buses says the taxation is too much. I've been in downfall bus and the driver had to pay about 1,600 for loading in Ilaje. I spoke to the driver and he confirmed taxes from Ikeja to Ilaje to Costain represents more than 1/3 of total money collected from commuters. It's just absolutely unfair, and
is it really? Well, the truth is, such things have to be brought in the open. Is it really unfair? Because at the end of the day, something happens every 4 years that it seems that one is not published. But anyhow.
Okay, I'm trying to decode that.
There's a relationship. There's a
relationship between the
driver unions and the government.
Yes, but it's not. I'm talking about unfair to the bus drivers themselves.
That's what I'm saying. The bus drivers make up the unions,
Oh.
and they are in an unholy alliance with government.
Okay.
And until that is brought to the table,
Yeah.
we cannot define what is unfair.
All right. Okay. Thank you
Wow.
very for decoding on my behalf.
No, thanks for that
All
insight.
right, let's talk about, since we are talking about the CBN and their actions, another area that they are spitting fire is that they threaten to prosecute abusers of Naira. This is in the This Day newspaper. You know, Devo, if I just woke up, or maybe I've been asleep for about a few years, I'll think I'm still, a few years back. Because we've seen this headline a number of times, the CBN saying that, it's against the law to flagrantly abuse the legal tender by hurling wads of Naira notes in the air and stamping on the currency as social functions. I would just like to, on a lighter note, refer people to what happened in Anambra State and how they were tagging the CBN that, can't you see?
Oh.
Please, very shortly, your notes on this so we can take a break.
Oh.
He attended that event.
You see, the funny thing is, it's an age-old misdemeanor, okay? And not just for the Naira, even if you have capacity, you spray dollar. And the CBN has been against this action or this norm. Let's call it the war against spraying, against Naira abuse, dancing on it, being hawked. For if you want mint, you pay a premium to get it at social events. Okay, they're saying this is illegal, it is unpatriotic, and it is immoral. Now, what do you call it? Now they're saying that it's also punishable by the law by fines and imprisonment. Now the CBN wants to partner with the police, FIRS, EFCC, and the NFIU to check these flagrant abuses. But you see, just like you mentioned, not only was CBN tagged, even the NIFU and members of the Nigerian Police Force intelligence crew were present.
I was going to represent it.
Well represented, ably represented and catered for. And it's not just an Anambra thing. I think it's in practically every section of this country. But yes, if Anambra stands out among the pack, well, thank you very much for that mention. Now the truth is, it's outside. It's really, really outside the CBN scope. CBN can have a framework against it. However, the change management here is going to be difficult because it's a cultural norm. And not just a cultural norm, it is seen as desirable. So how do you change that? Cultural norms are difficult, especially when they're desirable. AK or EG or IE, for example, nomadic herding. When you argue with those who are nomadic herders, they'll tell you that's how they've done it for donkey years.
Was that an excuse, though, to continue doing what is perceived as
an excuse is a relative condition or position? Because some people, we all feel as Nigerians that when our own people, Yomi, are doing something, that we need to adore them. Hence the spraying of money. Well, we still have gifts. They'll tell you that you can give gifts. You can send it in packages. You can do, some people were creative in terms of creating QR codes, whereby you just raise your phone and money moves from one account to the other. But do not abuse it by spraying it or dancing on it. So not just the CBN, but as a people, as a country, we're going to have to begin to think about how creatively we can, avoid this abuse that the CBN is pointing to. Because I can assure you that as long as it's something that is seen as positive or desirable by Nigerians, it is not just going to be an uphill task. It's going to be an impossible task for the CBN.
They're getting already for even this story is so sensitive.
No. But I'm just being truthful here. The CBN needs to work with the National Orientation Agency to see how they can find best means, desirable means of Nigerians to be able to display their adoration for their friends and families.
How the National Orientation Agency just crops up once in a while in conversation, and we were
they exist.
We have something called
just quickly before we go on this, the people in government themselves will do well if they attend such events and don't do the same, because you go to events and you'll be shocked that you see people in government or people associated with people in government, their wives, their children, their husbands do these things.
People should take their pictures whenever we see them and tag them.
So if those ones don't do it, it's easier then for the NOA to say, look, don't do this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. When we come back, we finalize the stories here on Freshly Pressed. That is going to be almost an impossible.
This place is heating. What's wrong with the AC now?
Ever since life lightning struck. We are importing from abroad.
But they can pipe a you can no, but you can pipe a pipe into here now, into the studio.
Maybe we'll give them as a suggestion.
So how do you guys? Okay, you leave the door.
Well, I'm not a tech, I'm not an engineer. Your brother has just given me. Thank you for that idea. We'll pass
So
it
you
on.
leave the door open. Most
No, the door has to be closed because of sound.
Okay, we're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. So,
Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for staying with us. You're listening to Freshly Pressed 981 as a part of Smooth's Breakfast with Valentine Uhu.
and Ayomairo essay.
Let's look at Nigeria's inflation rate as it slows down to 17.38% as reported by The Guardian. The Consumer Price Index was released by the National Bureau of Statistics. Measures the CPI, that's Consumer Price Index, measures the rate of change in prices of goods and services in Nigeria. It's not a significant drop, but at least it's measured in this sense as a slow in pace of how food prices are rising over the past couple of months. What are your thoughts on this, Lakunle, please?
every small win we celebrate.
Yes, please.
Those are my thoughts.
Okay, should we move on to
So
the
let's
next story?
move on.
Thank
Every
you for
small win we
that. Yeah,
Like
celebrate.
that.
thank you.
All right, let's move on to this next story. Now, government Labour have agreed on deregulation. Now, while the details are not so clear, Divo, but it seems like now what's curious to me, and I'm trying not to be cynical about this, is the fact that we're hearing from the government, but based on this thought, there's also the conversation around the deregulation of the downstream sector and the pricing of a liter of petrol possibly increasing. We mentioned this yesterday, but what do you expect to come in the coming days? Actually, not weeks.
This is a what do you call it? A sector that I am actually very tied to, by way of training as a patrol engineer, and also by way of I'm from the Delta, the Niger Delta. However, let's break down the little that the government is, because at this point in time, the government is actually breaking down what is to come in the near future in bits and pieces. And it has implications on the social welfare of Nigerians, both locally and internationally. Now, first of all, the Minister of States, Petroleum Resources Chief Timipre Silva, did disclose this in the press briefing in Abuja, that there had been a consensus reached, and people need to understand there's a whole lot behind that word consensus with the organized labor. You know, for a long time now, they had been at loggerheads as to all the attempts to raise the price. Remember, they started with the raise in the power rates and the electricity rates, which was also doubled with the rates in the pump price because of the inability of Nigerians to pay the real rate of the petrol, because at some point, as exchange started shifting, okay, and crude price was also rising, it was humanly impossible to get any profit or to pay for the importation at 165. Now, remember all those the frameworks and discussions over what do you call it? They will manage the rates against month by month, etc. They would set a basis, and then the difference the NNPC would pay for. Now, even though they had taken subsidy out of the budget, how were they paying for that difference? Came in with what we heard as under recovery, and obviously the truth of the under recovery, because someone was paying for it, eventually came out and they started screaming and shouting that we're spending over 120 billion per month and that we're bleeding, literally, which eventually cascaded into lower sharing of money for the federal government and the states, and the governors were screaming on a daily basis. Yes. So now they've said, okay, this is the systematic way that they intend to remove that under recovery, or subsidy as people know it, by allowing market forces to dictate the price. Now, this is captured in the PIB, which was just signed by the president, I think a day or two ago. And this is one of the issues. Now, they project that the pump price will be going as high as 300 naira. Remember, the governors had already mentioned last time that maybe it should sell for 350, because when you put into consideration the crude price, the importation price, the landing price, the distribution price from the port to the pump price, it should be hovering around that portion. Now, the marketers obviously agreed to this because what it means is that they'll be able to pay. They don't have to take loans again. Secondly, The other aspect was that the NNPC will be unbundled. This is still sketchy because people are trying to understand what that means. Now, what that means is that, unlike before, government in quotes will not play a role in business. NNPC will operate like a business. It will report its accounts, etc. It will seek to make profit. It will not be making those decisions like under recovery that nobody has an account to. This time it will have to publish. However, they have mentioned that the federal government will take on the debt assets of the NNPC. Also, they spoke to the issue of the host communities, which many have.
Yeah, so since you're talking about the host community, I'll
Yes.
just take you on to the headline from the Punch. Signing of PIB, Buhari bowed to majority wishes, or which says presidency South blames, or while South blame their lawmakers for this decision. So 3% as opposed to the 5% I was actually.
Yes.
Southern governors here. I like the question on your face. They're actually asking for 10.
Well, the truth is, it's been signed. People say it's an imperfect bill, okay, because if you've been to the Delta, you will see that they clearly deserve a 10% for what Nigeria as a whole takes from them, all right, as their natural resources.
No, but they get other things.
They do get other things. As against Zamfara that sells its gold and takes it for itself. However, that's an argument for tomorrow. However, the point is this: the president is also playing some very clever politics here by saying it's not my fault. That's all he's saying.
Yeah.
Once again, someone's denying.
The
I
majority
don't,
asked for
I
it.
don't have a part to play in this. Now, is that really the case, or was there a cahooted conspiracy between the majority party, which is the APC, to make it work this way? But the president does have a point. And what I would say is this: my issue also that even the host community allocation will not get to them. Unfortunately, this country is a behemoth of corruption, and many people would argue that statement because, like you said, there's still other things that they get. So how come, and this is the argument of any objective person, not just the North, okay, that you get statutory allocation,
Yes.
you get the Niger Delta Ministry,
Derivation
you
fund.
get the derivation 13%,
Yes.
you still get NCDC, and yet you still want to create something for. So how come
Please
that?
don't forget the $111 million.
Thank you.
But they could argue that they are funding the nation. So they
Clearly.
No.
So-
My point is, if
Yeah,
if you take a critical look and bring in the accountant general here into what is given to the Niger Delta states, how come it hasn't gotten to the host communities?
Oh, right.
That is a question that has not been answered. So what we've done gradually is build policy on top of a crippled situation. And tomorrow, apart from whole community, you will hear that there needs to be a bill passed that each local government should get some kind of allocation because the 3% for host community didn't get to them.
I like that you touched on that because I just food for thought. You don't need to answer this rhetorical question, but if the host communities were affected positively by the funds that have been sent to them ever since, do you think they'll be clamoring for more?
Of course they wouldn't. Of course they
yeah,
wouldn't.
it's going to be sufficient.
Now, COVID scare is real. As we are talking about this, there's been a lot of infections, averaging about 580 infections every day in the past week. What are your thoughts on this headline story from The Guardian, Lakanle? COVID-19, Nigeria registers 8,197 infections in 15 days.
We cannot understate the importance of us believing that COVID-19 is real and it is out there ravaging people, ravaging homes, turning children to orphans, turning parents to whatever. And now here we are, 8,179 infections in 15 days. Some of these people will not make it. And it is unfortunate that so many of us don't believe this thing. We need to protect ourselves. It's simple. Go get vaccinated. It started on the 16th, on Monday. Go get vaccinated however you want to do it. The government has announced that they've got another batch of AstraZeneca coming in very soon. So these things are
Johnson
out
and
there. Please,
Johnson
Johnson and Johnson had arrived before.
It's not Moderna.
AstraZeneca. No, Moderna came.
Okay.
Johnson and Johnson was announced just yesterday or 2 days ago. I read about the AstraZeneca again, about 1 million doses of it. So these things, as much as the government is trying, our health facility is not stable. Don't let us even overwhelm it. Don't forget the doctors are also on strike right now. So everything we need to do to prevent a collapse of the system as it is, please let us do it. Obey the protocols, Stay in your homes if you don't have to go out. If you have to, wear a face mask. Don't take these things for granted, because at the end of the day, you will just become a number, a statistics. We don't give names to dead people in Nigeria. Please take heed, take the vaccine, obey the protocols. Please, everybody, let's put an end to this thing. We cannot be angry with the government and then hurt ourselves.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Lakunle. A few things though that I'm hurt by. I'm still the tests. After vaccination, we'll still do tests, and it costs 50,400 naira.
It's not the government's
It's the
fault.
pain.
It is
And
the
you
pain.
have to. Are we going to stop traveling?
That's a bit of it that is scary.
Okay, so someone's asking, how can I get vaccinated around Festac Satellite Town? We're going to put up the information,
Send us, yes.
on our WhatsApp story. So please send your name so we can add you to our WhatsApp platform so you can see and pick the center that's closest to you. They've quite, they've distributed it across Lagos quite well. So you should have one close to your local government area. Thank you all very much for being a part of the conversation. Thank you, Lakunle Yusuf. Thank you, Divo Okorie. We continue the conversation in a few minutes during Lagos Talks 981. You can ask questions then or make contributions to the conversation, to the headline stories we've touched on this morning.
Access to loans from
What's
Page
up for 9?
Financials.
I mean, sorry, what's up
Slim
for
Shady.
Page
Huh?
Financials. Taking
what's up
you
for
further.
Lagos Talks?
Sorry?
What is on?
Oh, okay, sorry.
This
Slim
is,
Shady.
Okay. Of course, no.
Is it that one? 0909.